Hey everyone, it's Gretchen here, Catnpaws. So I've been wanting to make a couple like craft with me journal videos, and I figured we'd go ahead and jump in and make a springtime journal. So if you just want to follow along and check out some of my techniques or craft with me, that would be great. Love to have company. Working out of this Echo Park springtime paper pack. I figure it's April, not quite Easter, and the brightness, something maybe I may be craving. But it's double-sided paper here. I have some light tea stained paper I will be using with this, and then some other embellishments. There is a sticker sheet. I'll try to throw, like incorporate a couple of the stickers with it. I'm not a big like sticker everywhere fan, unless it really kind of speaks to my heart and says, okay, add it on there. And then you'll notice a couple of these sheets had the 6x6 cutouts. I took one already, and I want to try to keep this down to either 1 or 2 videos. And made a few embellishments. Just to jump ahead, I'll show you those real quick. I decided that would be the cover. Journal card with some washi tape. These are Project Life. And I'll make more as needed, but I just wanted to get a head start on it. I love that design. That's so cute and bright. A tag. And then inspiration from the mushroom market. She made these wonderful little things you attach to the page and embellish. That's another Project Life. And then these envelopes actually came from a die I got off of AliExpress. And when I folded them up, one I overlapped. That one I folded in and then just glued. And that one I overlapped. I was trying to see which one worked best. Less room on that one and more room on that one. So that's the one that overlapped. And that came from those little 6x6 pieces in there. That was one of the sheets. And in case I haven't mentioned it, I have some like lightly tea-dyed paper. Yeah. And some embellishments. So let's get started. I'm going to make this cover. I have my measurements here. 9 by 11.5. So 11.5 wide. Just gave me this little strip here, then by 9 inches long, and then my paper actually inside will be the traditional 8.5 by 11. Thought about, do we want to go ahead and round the corners on this cover? Because I think that would be cute, especially for springtime. Just flattening that down. So if I'm going to do that, let me do it now before I forget. And I do want to distress the edges with ink. And I thought about this. I've been wanting to do this video for quite some time. And I thought, well, I'll just keep to the Tim Holtz vintage photo. Distress for the cover. I will show you though, I did use some of these inks. I won these in a giveaway from Crafting and Relaxing. I used those to spice up around the corners of these other embellishments we're going to put in. But I'm going to stick to vintage photo for the cover. And if you're going to do that, well, you don't have to, but you do want to kind of round your corners if you're going to do it. Otherwise, once you round them, you have to go back and distress over again. So I'm only using one sheet for the cover, which means I want to reinforce the inside a little bit with some extra paper just to get some sturdiness. At least that's how I prefer it. And then I like to add lots of goodies in the pockets, or however we end up doing the inside cover. I don't know about where you're at, but I took the doggies out for a walk this morning and I had my winter coat on. April. It's mid-April. I think that touch of brown just adds nicely, and we can embellish this cover as well. So that's going to be the main. So what I like to work on next, I kind of jump all over the place, but I like to work on signatures. Kind of get the idea of what I may want if I'm going to embellish the cover. So these are tea dye papers. I do have a video, if I remember, I'll throw a card up, that how to tea dye these in bulk. And I'm taking out the lighter papers. And I have a stack over here as well. That you can see there just kind of got speckled, so I'll probably throw some of those in. Oh, I like that one. Look how it dripped down. And a couple of these that frame the paper. Usually a signature, I keep the 13 to 15 pages, and that includes adding some beautiful pictures with it. I have some Edith Holden we can throw in there. What I like about this paper, sometimes I do have to trim the edges off, but sometimes I don't, so we'll see what happens. I'm just going to proceed to fold these in half. So I'm having a good week. I'm enjoying myself. I picture this will be what it's like when retirement sits in, which won't be for a long time, but nice to not have to wake up and go to work. I keep track of my blood pressure just because I'm on a low dose of blood pressure pills, and it has been beautiful. So I got started folding a couple of those. Next I'm going to go through and look for my first signature page, and let's just go ahead and grab this pretty polka dot with the flowers. I will say this, if I ever get a bigger crafting room, I am going to need another desk. I have so much stuff in my way. Let's start with going the 11 first. So this first one I do that goes right inside, first thing you see when you open up the cover, I keep it at 11, and then I will gradually work it down, because that's just how, as the paper bulks up. So again, I'm doing this 8.5 by 11 traditional size legal copy. Legal? Is it the legal type? Yeah. I think they call it legal paper. I like the flower, so we'll do that. And I don't think I'll distress this. Let me go ahead and make sure it fits well. And it does, so you can't see it. And around the corners. How is everybody's April treating them so far? I hope well. Ants have found their way into the house. Typical this time of year for us. We have two big nests, one that lives out front and one lives in the back that I'm aware of. Okay, and I stick that paper in to make sure it's going to line up and not stick out. I don't know why that bothers me. It may not, and you don't have to. It's just maybe my little neurotic tendencies to want to do things. But I'm going to round these corners. So I broke out the spearmint and the peppermint to try to keep them at bay and keep them outside where they belong. I go keep an eye on keep an eye on my dog food. They just want my fluffer kitties. So let me go see what he wants. So I had to feed the kitty cat. I'm going to stick the next sheet in. So far, so good. And you can see there it just starts to ever so slightly poke its head out. And probably the next one we may have to trim down a smidge. Again, not required, just something I seem to do. I'm working with a new phone, and I'm not sure if it's going to let me go past 30 minutes. I want to get this done. One part would be nice, but probably 2 parts. But there'll be a surprise at the end, so definitely worth hanging around for. Then let's go ahead and add one of these pages in. See how nice that fits in there. Room to grow. I've put some candles from the keeping room, rainbow cotton candy, in my warmer. And then I have my bunny cake by Yankee candle going. I did light it up yesterday and had it lit for a good many hours. I was able to smell it, so that's always a good thing. I'm going to jump back and do another tea stained. What else? I have an Edith Holden page here that we can put in. Perfect. Just going to trim that edge up just so it's a little straighter. I know some people leave it as is, or they tear the edge off to make it rustic. But I'm just going to trim it. We'll go ahead and hit the 4 corners. And then fold it in half. I'm going to go ahead and add another piece of scrapbook paper. Again, we're going to keep it at the 11-inch. Well, I'm just going to take off the 8.5 part first. So I'm cutting my paper down to 8.5. And then I think I'm going to go just slightly under 11 because of the piece of paper poking out. I'm going to fold it first to make sure it looks okay before I trim my corners up. I'll pull you up here. And if you're one of those that like to score, you could, to make sure it's even on, you know, but eventually you would never see it because up here, and then you have stuff in the middle. We should be okay there. And if you wanted to, like, you know, this was a whole 12 by 12 sheet of paper. I could have made pockets with it at the time and just scored it and cut it that way, but I decided just to go with making a sheet of paper with it. So that's pink, and I really like that pop of red there. So I think we'll go ahead and round these corners up and stick the sheet in. For those of you that celebrate Easter, are you ready? I do have a ham I picked up from Costco, and now my kids are grown. I told Mark, I said, I'm not doing an Easter basket this year. And he goes, I can't believe you were thinking about it, but I've done Easter baskets for many years now for my children, or just giving them a little trinket. And this year I didn't do anything. I didn't grab anything. I drooled over all the Easter goodness, but I didn't pick anything up. And, you know, Chloe is Chris's and Samantha's child, so I don't, you know, I mean, if she was older, I probably would make her a little basket, but I figure she's 6 months old, and the kids want to do something for her, they can. But I'm not going to sweat it this year. You see there, I trimmed off just the edges because it's starting to expose the edges in my signature. So yeah, I just decided not to. I don't know. There's always I didn't even put any Easter decorations out. Wasn't feeling it this year. But I do feel a lot better. And I'm healing well. Now I should be cleaning the house instead of making a journal. But priorities, baby, priorities. I'm going to pop in another sheet of construction paper. This is what I mean by more desk space. I constantly just kind of move things out of the background. Open up the paper cutter. I'm going 8.5. And you don't have to, but that's just keeping it in line with everything else. And then I'm just going to go slightly again under 11. So probably we're down to like 10 3/4 at this point, this far into the journal pages. Oh, pretty polka dots. Hitting it with my bone folder. Let's check it out before we trim the corners. Sticks out so very slightly. I think we can make it work. And it is a junk journal. It can be anything you want it to be. No mistakes. Really just maker or user preference comes into play. Grab another flower page. And we're going to see if this fits okay. Yep, we're good to go. We do have daffodils blooming. They're doing good so far. I think where they're planted at, they're protected by the wind. And that helps, I think, keep them budding just a little bit longer. I could be wrong. I'm going to go ahead and cut that now on the one side. So you just start to eyeball things and say, okay, I'm going to need to do that. Let me go ahead and do that. And I try not to overthink it, because if I start overthinking, I just stall and it will not get done. And I'll think about it and think about it, and it just kind of drives me a little nutty sometimes. I'm going to trim these edges up. Okay. So I stopped the video, and I did go ahead and trim up the middle page here because we were just about there. I'm hoping to, I just don't want to like get started on signatures and then have to stop the video and pick it back up. I added also a piece of, this is food color dyed paper. Alright, so we are done with our signature. I believe there are 15 sheets here. And what we can do next is, if we wanted to, we could bulk this up, or we could go ahead and sew in our signatures and then deal with that after we sew them in. I like to, oh, you know one thing I do have to do if I'm going to use these, I have to put them in now. And all it is just a 6x6 piece of paper, folded in half, and when it's done it will look like that with some embellishments. But I needed to add that, and I have another one as well that we can put further in. There looks like a good spot. I did ink this one up with Majestic Violet. And you know what? Let me grab a bag. I want to put a bag in. These gorgeous filling paper bags. I'll just fold it in half and we'll find a spot to insert it. There seems like a nice spot. See, I just try not to overthink it. Sometimes I really do, and then I regret regret my decision quickly. And do I want to leave that like that, or do I want to go ahead and trim this open so we can use it? Alright, so let me go ahead and do that, because it's really hard to trim something for me once it's been sewn in. I seem like it could, well, it seems like it could run the risk of tearing. And then you either have to rip it out or take out your signatures, or, you know, undo your thread. Another thing is, I'm not a big fan of this ruffle right here where the bag kind of glues, and I'm thinking, what can we go ahead and stick there while this is open, going through my scraps. That is cute, isn't it? Let me measure. Where's my ruler? by 3.5. Well, we know we're good there. We just got to go 6 inches. I think on this one I may ink it up just to give it a little bit of character, and I'll go with the traditional brown there. I'm going to leave the corner sharp, and you know I don't like that where it was. This was the inside page, so it has another little design on it that was next in line to be used. I'm just going to trim that off. Again, you don't have to, but it's just my silliness. Look, my daubers shredding. Time for a new one. Seems like I just put this one on too. Now we could just glue that down and leave a pocket there, but I'm going to have a pocket here, and I'll just use that to reinforce it. Choice of adhesives. You can use anything you want, but I'm just going to use some tear tape. I do notice how quiet it is in here today because everybody's at work, and Chloe started daycare. It was a big decision. Chris worked seasonally, so he started back to work, and they were kind of trying to take off and work their schedules for someone to be here with her. And Mark and I filled in where we could. But ultimately, she did start daycare. Now, see, I was going to line that up with that, but I don't like that now. I want something blank in between that colorfulness. Let me look for a spot where I had 2 or more sheets of tea dye paper together. I used that one. Take that one out, put this one in, and then we'll flip back through here. Look for a spot. There's one. And that looks okay. Now I'm satisfied. Now I think we can start sewing this in. Am I at? Okay. I'll end up editing some of this out because I fed the cat and tried to do just a little bit of the repetitiveness off camera. Here I'm clipping my signature together with paper clips to hold it to keep it from slipping. And if I can show you a really quick tip for lining up the holes. Where's my paper at? I have a template already made. Tells me the length on there. And then I put top. Well, I know this is top because that's the way I wrote it down. And then that kind of keeps everything in order. I want to have a protective surface. This came with a piece of furniture we got, and I saved it. And I've been trying to lately, when I poke the holes in, cover to go inward. Especially on these one cover papers. I'm just lining up my template. This is one of those, well, who makes this? We Are Memory Keepers. It was a Brad setter. I'm going to flip it over then. And just line that up, and hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. Let me try to get that in camera. I'm keeping my fingers on it so I don't let the template slip as I'm using it. I'm going way down through the whole stack. I tend to start at the middle, go up, and then come down. And this is just a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. You can do 4, 5, 6. And then once I take it off, I reinforce those holes again, because they have to go the whole way through. All right, put that aside. Grab my needle, and do I have... I was looking, I bought some of that thread that's waxed. I'm going to go ahead and use this wax thread. I got this at Michael's. Had to ask the lady where it was at. Mine was in the back of the store with the leather goods, I believe, like the punches, that kind of thing. And for this you only need about 2.5. Funny, the hardest thing to find sometimes are the scissors. Let me measure that because I forgot. 1, 2, 2.5. And then here's another tip. With my needle, it depends on your needle size, what you use. I take my brayer and I flatten my thread down so it goes through the needle more easily. And then I just keep my needle in one of these little books, and the magnet holds it. Okay, I'm gonna need my glasses for this. I just threw my case in my trash bin. I'll have to dig that out. Then if I don't see it right, I get out my super sharp scissors. Super sharp. Cut the edge off and start again. These are my cheapy ones to cut it originally. You can see they're flattened down. Let's see. Yes, come through, and then I try to grab it. There. Ooh, take off the glasses. Those are reading glasses I picked up at the store. And I just really need them to do, like, rethread my sewing machine. And that's one thing I only did a couple of sewed embellishments. Your choice. You can really go crazy with the sewing. I could have sewed the corner, and I might go ahead and sew what we're going to put in here. It just depends. So I start through the middle. I use the traditional little piece of washi tape. Hold it down because I have one too many times pulled my thread through by not doing that. And I use the washi tape I don't use for anything else, and it has a pretty good low tack on it. Some of the washi tape I have has a high tack, and I would not use that because it could rip your paper off. And then I come up to the top. So we start in the middle, come up to the top. You see there I'm going through that hole. And then I also keep my handy dandy pliers around needle nose to grab my needle. Just because I don't have the strength in my hands. Come up, there we go. Whew. And I'm going to have to go back through the middle again. So I try as much as I can to get my thread over so I don't go through that. Come through. Again, try not to go in my thread that's already there. That just results in catastrophe. There, and we're back through the middle. You can tighten up as you go along or wait till the end. But I am trying to tighten it up as we go. I'm going to go down to the bottom one. There's my hole. I'll try to get it in there. Hope you can see what I'm doing. Okay. Wow, I got off the wayward track on that last hole. Had to undo some papers, get it back on track. Okay, so we start in our middle, so I go up and just tighten it with my finger. Pull it back down through. And all I'm doing is just pulling my strings where I went through at. Tighten the outside of the thread here. I'm going to take this off slowly. And I'll reuse that for trash pickup. Then I'm going to, what is that, a knot? Start of a knot? What I try to do is bring the needle back under here to help me hold it. And then I feel like before I do that final tie, I look to make sure that things are tight still. And I knot it. Pull my needle off. And then if we want here, we can tie a bow. We'll leave that for like that for now. There's the basic of it. There's our cover. See there, I struggled to get that bottom one in. But I'm not going to worry about it. It's still pretty. And we're ready to embellish. Alright, I think I'll end part 1 there. We'll pick up part 2.